Hello, you're listening to Storytelling Saga, the podcast that shares stories. I'm your host, Allie, and this week I'm discussing Up, directed by Pete Docter. He's just a brilliant storyteller, honestly, because I didn't realize, I just, doing some research now, I didn't realize he also directed Monsters, Inc. That's another, obviously, wonderful, and that's one of the earlier Pixar movies. And then he directed this movie, and then I did know he directed Inside Out, and he also directed Soul. And then since 2018, he has served as the chief creative officer of Pixar. So he didn't direct Inside Out 2, but he was a creative consultant, of course. Obviously, that was Kelsey Mann, I think, who directed Inside Out 2, if I'm not mistaken. Whatever, I talked about that movie, which is wonderful, too. Yeah, Kelsey Mann, that's right. Once I'm I gotta double check. But this movie, obviously, is so emotional. And I think, when I was going to record this, I was like, oh, am I going to start crying? But, I think I'm all cried out, to be honest, rewatching this now. I think this was only maybe my third time watching this movie, too, because I first watched it years ago when I was in college, so I hadn't seen it in theaters, but I did watch it with a big group because we watched it just in one of my clubs that I was in college. And I remember, though, that at certain times it would buffer. I think it must have been a DVD. And so I remember early on it buffered at a key point, in the obviously the amazing, beautiful first 10 minutes of this movie, which I recall reading about. So I basically knew about that, how it's essentially a short film about the love story between Carl and Ellie Fredrickson, and how that in and of itself could just have been its own 10-minute short film. And I wonder, maybe it was the proof of concept for this movie before then developing it into a feature. Who knows? Because it's just a complete story and so emotional and it's so powerful with the imagery. My goodness. But watching it that first time, though, I remember the video buffered at a key part, which is the part when he first crosses his heart. And I remember our club president being oh no, that moment's so cute. Well, just so you guys know, he went like this, he crossed his heart. So he's so then, it was just nice of him. It's okay, because that comes up again throughout the movie. I'm just remembering that. That was cute. That was sweet. So, my gosh. And yet that didn't stop me from crying my eyes out at the time. And now too, I just full on ugly cried a few times with this movie. Oh my goodness. But it's very cathartic getting to do that. Just you're feeling his grief with him and his overwhelming love for Ellie. And obviously there's that saying that grief is love with nowhere to put it. So, that's so beautiful too. But yeah, that first 10 minutes is arguably some of the greatest storytelling in any movie, let alone animation, but just any movie. Because it's you fall in love with these characters and then just they have their full life. That's the thing, because it's condensed into that montage, a beautiful montage of their life together. And then just the lovely music throughout, the happy version of it, the solemn version of that little motif. It's so beautiful too. I love that theme. It's so, it's amazing. And then of course all the imagery, in particular her little grape soda cap that she pins on him, so cute. The fact that they're just opposites right off the bat. She's so talkative, he's quiet, but they're just drawn together by their love of aviation, and their hero, the Carl Fredrickson, our main character, but Charles Muntz, who then, of course, turns out to be the, which has since become a trope with several of these movies, these Pixar movies, the secret villain. It's a good reveal at the time watching it, but then in hindsight, now it's been done so much that, yeah, but it is a good twist, though, certainly. But, yeah, their love of aviation and adventure, and then her saying, promise you'll take me there, and then cross your heart. And then, of course, he crosses his heart. I keep doing it now, cross my heart. It's so cute. But, the promise that they'll get to Paradise Falls someday. And, of course, the scrapbook. So that's when I first, I was okay, let's see how long it takes me to start tearing up. And sure enough, like when she brought out the scrapbook, I got misty-eyed because like knowing how that comes into play, especially later on in the movie, you know, oh gosh, oh boy. But it's such brilliant storytelling, especially because you don't hear Ellie as an adult, like just her as a kid. And then of course they get married and it's just that whole beautiful montage of them like on their wedding day in their, you know, bride and groom clothing, just building their dream home together, and then like placing the wet paints, their handprints on the, like Carl having accidentally done it, so then Ellie does it too with their handprints on the mailbox. And then the montage of her tying his tie for him, like all that beautiful, joyous stuff. And then them saving for Paradise Falls, but then things happen, the flat tire and having to fix the roof. Like, you know, things happen in life and like, you know, just all of like the ups and downs of life. But then it's all beautiful because it's like they just have this beautiful life together, their love for each other. They're just a happy husband and wife. But then also like the solemn moments, the heartbreaking moments in particular, of course, when you find out that they can't have children. And oh boy, like that part just, oh gosh. And then of course the symbolism of the balloon, when the balloon first floated in toward him after he had his little, you know, he went to go retrieve his balloon, he fell through, got his like arm in a cast. And so then like, you know, with the balloon, and then of course how that comes back into play when then sadly, you know, they're elderly and then she stumbles and then she's in the hospital in the blue balloon. And then after they say their goodbyes, and then it's just him holding that balloon. Like, how profound, how brilliant and amazing just to make you fall in love with this couple so quickly and, like, get the sense of their beautiful life together. So, like, though it's sad she's gone, it's like they lived a full life. And though, like, then he has that regret of that they never got to go to Paradise Falls, that doesn't take away from all the joy they had with each other. And like, even though he could have wanted to do more, like with them not being able to have kids, you know, but it's like, what a beautiful relationship. And then of course, obviously throughout this whole movie, it's that odd couple dynamic with, you know, elderly Carl and with the young Russell, the little Cub Scout or whatever, wilderness explorer specifically. And like, you know, Carl in present day, it's just so like bleak, obviously, with them like tearing down the whole neighborhood around him and then him just stubbornly still there in their home. And it's just so sweet how he talks to Ellie throughout the movie, like, oh, what a sight, huh, Ellie? Like, you know, oh gosh, in like just all of these frustrating moments, because again, as always with grief, it's like the relationship doesn't end. And then again, that saying of grief is love with nowhere to go, like nowhere to put it. It's like that saying, it's, you know, like all of these things brought to life with that. And then obviously that beautiful moment when, like, you know, after that heartbreaking moment where like he, you know, gets upset and he hurts that guy because he doesn't want to take the mailbox and like, you know, clinging to the past, not wanting to let Ellie go. And then like they order him that they're going to take him away to that Shady Oaks retirement home. And then, of course, like, you know, the brilliant thing of the house opening up and all of those colorful balloons. And there's such a sweet moment where, like, that little girl is, like, dazzled by it in her room. I literally said aw out loud with that. And obviously, of course, like, with Russell, how, like, you fall in love with him right away, too. Like, he's reading the handbook. He's very by the book. And, like, he's got that one missing patch that he needs. And it's like, you know, sash covered in patches, that one missing one, it's like near his heart, you know, like that symbolism too. Like, yeah, gosh, I love it. It's so sweet. But it really is so cute, like to assist the elderly. And then, of course, like as Carl's flying through, and it's so majestic and gorgeous. And again, like the music in this, it's so, I love it. It's so lovely. The funny moments, too, like, are just, like, you know, the silly things, like, with Russell. Like, all of a sudden when he's there on the porch, you know? Oh, gosh. I love all that. It's so funny. And so I had forgotten certain things. Like, I somehow had forgotten about Kevin. Kevin is so cute. That beautiful, colorful bird. Because, of course, like, Carl just gets rid of Russell early on by just saying, oh yeah, go find a snipe. And then, like, you know, when Russell runs into Kevin, it's like, oh, I found the snipe. And it's just this big, colorful, beautiful bird. And then, of course, Kevin turned out to be a girl, which is great. It gives me, like, the vibes of, like, Cosmo from Fairly Odd Parents. The good news is I named my nickel Philip. what's the bad news? It's a girl, Nickel. Same thing. It's like, oh, but she's still named Philip. So same thing here. Like, he still calls her Kevin, even though it's a girl bird. That's too funny. Oh, gosh. But I love Kevin. Oh, gosh. And then, of course, Doug. What a beautiful concept of, like, a talking dog. Like, what a way to make that work, of just, like, the collars, and I don't know you, but I love you, and so cute. And Squirrel, just, like, bringing a dog's thoughts to life, and obviously, like, Doug being just this happy-go-lucky, loyal golden retriever, and so endearing and so cute. So, like, obviously, Carl, like, in his grief of just wanting to fulfill that dream that they never got to truly realize, like, with Ellie when she was still alive, of going to Paradise Falls, and like the image of that overlooking the waterfall with their house there, perched there. It's beautiful, So then, like, when he finally, after like all that mayhem with the house, of like, that part too, like that sequence where it's like he's gonna lower Russell down, and then like he just slips out, like the kid's just falling, and then just cuts to like reality. It's like, oh nope, not gonna try that. It's like too funny, my gosh. But then, like, when he ends up there in Paradise Falls, and it's as beautiful and as majestic as he would have hoped, but then, like, he has to get it exactly to where it needs to be. Like, it's like he made that promise to Ellie. But he made it, though. It's like, oh, no, but it's not enough. It has to be perfect. It's like, I gotta get it, the house there. And then, obviously, the whole thing with Charles Muntz, who turns out to be the villain, and then, like, he's hunting Kevin, the bird. And, like, it's interesting because, like, obviously, it's so fantastical, this movie, with all of these, like, silly things, like talking dogs, and, like, this bird, and, like, a flying house, like, all this fantastical stuff. But yet the simplicity of just this elderly man grieving the loss of his wife, this young boy who's just tenacious and resilient and trying his best to get his badge that he wants, his last badge, helping the elderly. And then, like, in doing so, it becomes all the more endearing when you find out, sadly, that his dad isn't necessarily around for him much. And that moment when he says, like, oh, well, Phyllis doesn't like when I call him. And then Carl says, you call your mom Phyllis? And then Russell says, Phyllis isn't my mom. And just like that weight of that silence, of the realization of, like, oh, his dad remarried, his dad isn't around for his son as much as he should be. That's so devastating, honestly, too. And because, like, Russell's so sweet. It's like, oh gosh, but then of course, obviously, forming this bond, and like a window into what could have been with Carl, of, become, like, kind of raising a kid, or like, a grandkid, really, in this case now, and just like hanging on to that hope of gonna get the house there for Ellie, like doing it for them, doing it for her. And then just Russell stubborn in, like, okay, well then if I help you, like if I assist you, will you sign off on my badge? And it's like, okay, so they made a deal, But then, of course, like, finding Kevin along the way, and then Doug. You gotta love Doug, he's so cute. And then, of course, like all the other dogs, like Alpha, Beta, Gamma, like too funny, just like all those like silly moments too, of like Alpha with the high-pitched broken voice modulator thing, and then like with one of the dogs saying, like, oh, that tiny mailman, like, referring to Russell. So cute. And that moment too when like Russell is like trying to climb the rope, and then Carl's like, okay, when you get up there, and then it's like, okay, you up there yet? And like he looks up, and like Carl, I'm mixing up the name, sorry, Russell's like barely made it up at all. Like, all the visuals, that's too fun too. So like, it's like so joyous too, despite that underlying theme of grief and what could have been, and like the regret still that Carl is hanging on to, that's like anchoring him down, and like, learning to, like, how he truly needs to let go, of course. And so then, like, when he meets his childhood hero with Charles Muntz, because that's so endearing too, early on, like, the opening scene of the movie when he's watching that movie, and you see young Carl, like, with his aviator goggles, like, over his glasses, and it's just so cute, and he's so excited, and he's just like, oh, wow, like, like, that's his hero. So then when he meets him in real life, and then, like, of course, first he seems great, and then, of course, you learn the truth that, wait, something seems more sinister, and it turns out he's, like, hunting this bird, and, like, oh, wait, this guy's evil, like, oh, yep, he's a villain, and so then it's like, oh, thank God Ellie didn't know, like, even though they bonded over, like, as part of that, their love of aviation and flight. But then, like, oh, nope, this guy is no good. Like, nope, this guy is terrible. And, like, look what he did to these dogs. And, like, all these dogs are so mean to Doug, too. And Doug is so pure and so innocent. Like, how can you not love Doug? He's so cute. Oh, my gosh. I love him so much. And that whole scene too, like when they're fighting and like then they're both, their backs seize up, that's hilarious too. Like their backs crack, like, oh, these two elderly men like kicking each other's asses, It's too funny though. But gosh. And then like that part when Russell smacks against the window pane, he's dragging along, you just see Charles's eyes following him. That's so funny too. Oh gosh. So like those moments of levity are very much welcome, because obviously like the emotional moments really hit hard. And in particular for me, in the moment when I full on ugly cry, oh gosh, is when, the whole scene when it's so devastating to like he lights the house on fire, like, oh, that's horrible. But then like Russell obviously is concerned about Kevin, this living creature who's trying to get back to her children. Like, this poor bird, after like he captures the bird, and then like, Carl's just more concerned about the house and like fixing up the house again. And then when he goes inside and like fixing the chairs the way they were and everything, and the picture frames, and then he sits there and Ellie's empty seat next to him and flipping through the scrapbook. And then of course, like, things all stuff I want to do, like, and then finally turning the page and then seeing like their adventures together of their wedding day and like all these joyous moments, them just living their lives. It did briefly make me wonder though. I was thinking to myself, who took these photos? But then I guess they probably just set up a camera and just like, put the timer on and just had the photo, like, to put in the scrapbook. And then like that utterly beautiful, beautiful moment that just made me full on ugly cry now when he turns the page and finds a note from Ellie. Thanks for the adventure. Now go have a new one. And then, of course, he crosses his heart. And I was just like, oh, because like that weight of leading up to that, like that weight of like him feeling like he failed her in that moment. And it's like, well, I tried, Ellie. Like, like he doesn't have to say all that. You just see it on his face and like flipping through their memories. And then just like that joy and that love they shared. It's beautiful. And then like that final message of giving him the strength to truly continue living, to like, do it for her, do it for himself. And so then like when he's just, has that willpower again, and then just like tossing all the stuff out of the house, because then it's like, it's just stuff. It doesn't matter anymore. It's just like old furniture. He has his memories and his love for Ellie that's driving him and keeping him strong, keeping him going. So then like when he tries to find Russell, and then like Russell, I'm gonna go find Kevin, flying off. So it's so cute. Oh gosh, because after like he had disappointed Russell, and so then of course like they save Kevin. It's so sweet. And Kevin eventually then when she reunites with her little babies, they're so cute. They're just so dang cute, this little family of birds. They're so, again, so colorful and beautiful, kind of like toucans and ostriches. I don't know what kind of birds they're supposed to be. It's just an exotic bird, it says. Okay, so who knows? Just like, I guess, some made-up thing. Oh, and also kind of like a dodo, because Kevin doesn't fly either. So there's like that aspect to it as well. And then also like the whole thing with Doug when like he becomes the new alpha after it's like, because Alpha, that dog, is like the actual jerk, and then they're all like looking up to Doug then. So then it's so cute, like when Carl rescues all of them, like all these doggies, and reunites Kevin with her babies, and it's so cute. And he's like, okay, keep it, it's my gift to you, like them with the tennis balls, like, his walker, because like he doesn't need it anymore. He's got his strength back, it's so sweet, it's so endearing. And then of course at the end when Russell gets his helping, like assisting the elderly badge, and then Carl gives him, he like puts on the badge and then reveals that it's that little grape soda cap. It's like, I give you the Ellie badge. It's so sweet. And then Russell's mom is in the audience. Oh, how sweet too. And then of course at the end when they're enjoying ice cream cones and counting the cars, like, the cars that are driving by, red and blue, and, reminiscent of like recreating the memories now that Russell held dear with his father. And it's just so sweet too when he says like, sometimes the boring moments are the stuff I miss the most. And like obviously that really resonates with Carl, because just like the small moments clearly of when he's missing his wife, and how beautiful, so It's such a lovely movie, and honestly, like, just with the simplicity of, like, despite all, again, the fantastical stuff, just that beautiful simplicity of this old man finding new joy in his life, and with the love that he carries with him for Ellie, and just now, like, helping out this kid, and again, a new adventure. So then, like, all those snapshot memories in the new adventure book with him and Russell and all the doggies, and it's so cute, like Doug with all the puppies. Then I love all that. How amazing. So, like, truly what a joy this movie is, and like incredible with the emotional storytelling. That's like kind of like what makes it such a top tier Pixar movie, truly. And like taking flight, it's like spread your wings and fly, and like, new adventures. And his love for his wife is so strong, and that's the true joy in and of itself. So that's so beautiful. Like, oh my gosh, it really is such an amazing movie. One of the best Pixar movies, certainly. So, so beautiful. That's all I can say. Just much love to Carl and Russell and Doug, of course, and Kevin and her babies. So what a beautiful movie. And then obviously that last gorgeous, breathtaking image of the house overlooking the cliff on Paradise Falls. It's beautiful too when he does let go and the house is floating away. Russell says, "Sorry about your house, Mr. Fredrickson," and Carl says, "You know what? It's just a house." Because it's true, it's not their home anymore. It is just a house. And again, the most important thing is, like, he has his memories. Those can never be replaced or forgotten. Like, those will carry with him forever for the rest of his life. So just that bonds them with Carl and Russell, how they both fulfill each other's needs, and like how they form this true lovely friendship overall, like, it's beautiful. And also, real quick, one other moment I forgot to mention that is also so lovely is when Carl makes that other promise because like fulfilling that promise to Ellie, but then also that moment when he makes the promise to Russell, when Russell says, "Cross your heart," and of course that's so meaningful to him, but instead of actually crossing his heart, 'cause that's always like his promise to Ellie, he just says, "Cross my heart," about, saving Kevin. So of course he does keep his word, despite like all the bumps in the road and like him being so stubborn and then truly letting go, but then keeping that love alive in a new way with this new adventure. So again, that's just so beautiful and so touching. An amazing movie, so emotional, so heartfelt, and just so filled with hope, and we need that so much. So much love to Pete Docter and everyone who worked on this movie, because it's so true. Like, you just have that joy and you can take flight. So amazing. And with that, that's going to conclude this week's episode of Storytelling Saga. Check out storytellingsaga.com. And as always, feel free to send me any questions, comments, or writing prompts by emailing me at storytellingsaga@gmail.com. Until next time, thank you for listening, and remember, write what you love.